Hey, what's the word, players? As you know, we are in the middle of a fighting game renaissance between Street Fighter 6 and Mortal Kombat 1 out, Tekken 8 coming out soon, and a few fighting games in between. If you're a fighting game fan, you're eating well. But there is one fighting game franchise that I think needs to come back, and if you've been around this channel for a while, you know what it is. It's Virtua Fighter. It's always going to be Virtua Fighter. It's weird because I thought that Ultimate Showdown, which came out a few years ago, did pretty well. So it seems like it should be just a matter of time before Virtua Fighter 6 is announced. But until that moment arrives, I actually want to have a little fun and think about another fighting game that Sega used to have and what a sequel would look like nowadays. That game being Fighters Megamix, which is a crossover between Virtua Fighter and another fighting game franchise. No, not Last Bronx, even though Last Bronx does get an honorable mention. No, that actually goes to Fighting Vipers. Fighting Vipers came out in November 1995 and was developed by Sega AM2, the same developers that made Virtua Fighter. Now, I will be real with you, I actually have not played Fighting Vipers. I have played Virtua Fighter 2, but it actually wouldn't be until probably middle school when I had access to the internet that I found out that Fighting Vipers existed. But it was still pretty cool to see Fighting Vipers get a crossover with Virtua Fighter to create Fighters Megamix, which is not just a crossover between those two franchises, but also includes some Sega properties as well. You got Bean and Bark representing Sonic, because Sonic the Fighters was also developed by Sega AM2. And if you know any sort of trivia about this game, you know this is the game where you can play as the race car from Daytona, USA. Alright, so fast forward, it's now 2023. What would a sequel to Fighters Megamix look like now that all these fighting games are coming out? Well, for one, Virtua Fighter still has to be the one franchise, and this isn't going to be a jab to Fighting Vipers, but it's not going to draw in numbers. It's not a household name compared to Street Fighter or Tekken or Mortal Kombat. Not saying that Fighting Vipers can't come back as a standalone game, but I always figured Fighters Megamix as a Virtua Fighter thing crossed with something else, and so I thought it'd be interesting to have it cross with none other than Tekken. On a related note, I actually thought that this was a crossover that was going to happen anyway because there was a skin pack for Ultimate Showdown to have Tekken 7 skins, which honestly the skins look really great. If that was any indication, I wouldn't doubt that there could be a crossover potential between these two franchises. Alright, so now that we've established that this is going to be what Fighters Megamix 2 will be like, what's going to be the roster? Well, for Virtua Fighter, that's easy. Just put in the whole roster. I don't know if a Virtua Fighter 6 would have a new character. I'd imagine it would, but at least as of now, with all the characters that we have in Virtua Fighter, I'd say just put them all in. Now, Tekken gets a little bit trickier because Tekken has such a massive roster, but here's what I decided would work for the Tekken side. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to establish characters that were in the first Tekken. So Kazuya, Nina, Paul, Martial Law, King, Jack, Kuma, Heihachi, and Yoshimitsu. And from there, just picked fan favorites that would have pretty good ties to work in with Virtua Fighter. So Raven vs Kagamaru, Battle of the Ninjas, Zhang Kujo from Virtua Fighter vs Walrong. There's all sorts of possibilities. Honestly, this was really hard to narrow down, but this is what I thought would strike a pretty good balance of having the OG Tekken 1 and 2 cast while also bringing in fan favorites. So you might be wondering what's up with all the extra spaces. Ignore the fact that there's an extra column here. What could you possibly do to fill those in? Well, just like how the original Fighters Megamix was not just a crossover between Fighting Vipers and Virtua Fighter, but also various Sega IPs, I think for a Fighters Megamix 2, you make this a crossover between Sega and Bandai Namco. So I'm going through the list of things that I put down of potential ideas, and some of the stuff that I said was Kiryu or Majima or Ichiban. You have to have some sort of Yakuza representation. Just like how the original Fighters Megamix had Sonic representation, you can put in Sonic, or you can put in Knuckles, or you can even put in Shadow. Other things that I came up with were Ryo from Shenmue, Alex from Streets of Rage. I say just for gags, throw in Hornet from Daytona USA, have him be an unlockable character again for this game. I don't know, maybe you could include someone from Fighting Vipers here. I said as a joke you can put in Kuma-chan or Panda-chan. Who wouldn't want to see this weird abomination in HD? Other stuff I said were Akihiko or Makoto to have your persona representation. Honestly, there's so many representations from Sega that you can put in this game. And since this is a crossover game with other Sega properties, you can also put in different stages, like a stage from Space Channel 5, or House of the Dead stage, or Kamurocho from Yakuza. Your imagination can go wild for what characters or stages you can put. Now, when it comes to Bandai Namco, I'm much more knowledgeable on the Sega side of things than the Bandai Namco side of things. There was some stuff that I came up with, but to set some ground rules, I'm not including any licensed anime characters. So that means no One Piece, no Dragon Ball, no JoJo or Digimon, any of those. No licensed anime, because that's a quick way to get this delisted. I figure if you're gonna have some Sonic representation, put in Pac-Man. Wouldn't be the first time that they faced off against each other. I tried to come up with something as ridiculous as fighting a race car, but from the Bandai Namco side, what would that look like? And the closest thing that I came up with was controlling a mech from Armored Core, since that just came out recently. I think that'd be pretty funny. Probably not as ridiculous as the mechs from Lost Planet and Tatsunoko vs. Capcom, but still a little crazy. Can't forget that Soul Calibur is a part of Bandai Namco, so hey, you could make this a 3-way fighting game crossover if you were to include characters from Soul Calibur. I was thinking Maxi or Keelik. You could have some kind of Elden Ring or Dark Souls representation. There's probably more examples out there. I was kind of having a hard time finding more stuff from the Bandai Namco side. I actually could think of far more stages, such as you can have an Elden Ring stage. You could have a Klonoa stage. You could have a Katamari stage. By all means, you could have a Taiko no Tatsujin stage. I don't know how that would look, but it's a possibility. Oh man, so the thing that I'm trying to get with is that a Fighter's Megamix 2 is not an Evo game. It's not even an esports game, but it's a game that'd be a lot of fun, and sometimes you just need some of that. Now, of course, a standalone Virtua Fighter 6 would be taken more seriously, but sometimes you need to find a game that's just dumb fun. And I think this would fit that bill. But yeah, that's gonna be it for this one. Like I said, I just wanted to have a little bit of fun. Do you think that for a Fighter's Megamix 2, that Virtua Fighter should still be crossed with Fighting Vipers? Is Tekken a good choice instead? What characters from Tekken did I leave out that you'd like to see in? Or what Sega or Bandai Namco character would you like to see in the game? If you're looking for a non-dominational church, down in the description will be a link to our church locator. If you're interested in studying the Bible or you just want to hang out, link to my Discord is also down below. Once again guys, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, peace!